rede boa vontade de rádio. A rede da paz de que você precisa. 453, ondas médias, 940 kHz. 100.000 watts de potência. O melhor som do Rio. Super Rádio Brasil. Sintonizou. Hoje é Dia Nacional do Educador Social e Profissional que trabalha na área da educação e atua diretamente com indivíduos em situação de vulnerabilidade social, tais como as crianças, os jovens, os adultos em situação de risco pessoal ou social. Você está na sintonia do Comando da Esperança, seja muito bem-vindo, seja muito bem-vindo. A nossa saudação a você e a sua família que acompanha pela Super Rádio Brasil no seu dial 940 AM, pelo aplicativo Boa Vontade Play ou pelo portal da Espiritualidade Ecumênica, www.boavontade.com/rádio. E atenção aos destaques de hoje do mercado de trabalho no horário das 10. Nós vamos tirar uma aplicativos. Olha, você que está na sintonia da programação mais elevada do rádio, não perca essas orientações. Existem muitas dúvidas, decisões recentes aí de tribunais também tratando sobre essa temática, sobre essa matéria. Vamos esclarecer algumas dúvidas aqui da nossa audiência na Super Rádio Brasil. Inclusive, hoje, nós vamos formar juntos uma corrente justamente da vida profissional. Muitas vezes nós queremos uma oportunidade, aquela primeira oportunidade no mercado de trabalho. Existem profissionais que, depois de tantos anos, perdem os seus empregos e querem retornar, precisam naturalmente retornar ao mercado de trabalho. Outros que se aposentaram, mas que têm toda a energia, a boa disposição, o intelecto ali apurado, afiado, gostaria de continuar utilizando a sua experiência no mercado de trabalho. Então, são diversos pedidos. Outras vezes queremos pedir por alguém que conhecemos e que sabemos que passam por seus desafios. Mande a sua mensagem para a gente. 998264293. Conseguiu anotar aí? 998264293. Você pode ligar no telefone 2216.
Okay, I'm back. So I introduced you to the audience, your amazing curricula, and again, thank you very much for coming. I have to speak to the camera. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation and being here. Jaime, I know it's very, very early in Mexico, so special thanks to you. Okay, so let's start with Jane's presentation. Okay, Jane, the slides are working. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Okay, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Unfortunately, I can only see the back of your heads because the camera's behind everybody. So hi everybody, and greetings from sunny Toronto in Canada. It's such a pleasure to be speaking with my peer deans from across the globe to chat through about some of the grand global challenges and what opportunities are there for us in engineering education. So I'm first going to start off with getting us thinking about, well, what are these grand challenges? And you can see on the slide, this is an article that was published this summer, which outlines the impact climate change is having effect on our lives in a constant daily. There's always something that is happening across the globe. And this one is showing the wildfires in Canada, which have not only devastated communities and also the nature, but also have significant health consequences due to the exposure to the smoke particles. And in a more economic impact, they're suggesting that there has been up to $1.8 billion impacted for acute health impacts, and up to $19 billion for chronic health impact for communities across Canada. And remember that this year smoke couldn't be contained within a country, within Canada. And in fact, we know that the impact these fires had were felt across North America and beyond. So this is just an opener because I wanted to get us thinking as engineers, is that we all have a duty to step up and work on the most pressing challenges and opportunities facing humanity, and which, as we know, the United Nations have clearly articulated in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as a call to action for us. So we as engineers, we know that we cannot step up to these significant challenges in our discipline silos. We need to collaborate with people from other engineering disciplines and other fields, not just engineers, to actually understand and benefit from different perspectives and contexts. And as this fire illustrates, it's not just collaborating with others from other disciplines, it's other countries we need to work with, as we know that these challenges are very complex and go beyond geopolitical boundaries. So that's an opener to get us thinking about the complexities we're dealing with. And so what are we as educators for the next generation of engineers going to do about this? So my talk today is going to show you opportunities on how we as engineering education leaders can utilise the UN SDGs to bring us together across the globe. So hopefully I'm going to inspire some thinking for our conversation in a few moments. So let's just refresh ourselves about what we as engineers are doing about the UN SDGs. So our engineering profession, as again, this pressing responsibility to address these challenges with urgency. And I don't know whether you remember some time ago, it's getting on for nearly 10 years, the National Academy of Engineering in the US came up with the Grand Challenge concept. And this is being used by many engineering groups to focus, galvanize, and inspire the respective professions. And this, for us, are the grand challenges that were articulated some time ago for engineering in the 21st century. Now, whilst we have these 14 grand challenges, and they're very relevant for many countries, what I'm going to talk to you about now is that in Canada, the Canadian deans actually got together and felt that we needed grand challenges that reflected the unique characteristics of our people and our natural landscape here in Canada. And we articulate these challenges, you can see on the screen, in a way that we would believe that we could influence the thoughts and actions of engineering education, our research, and also our outreach to our community on the most important societal issues facing Canada and Canadians. So these were launched in 2020, and we as engineering deans believe these can actually lift our engineering profession's collective problem-solving capabilities, inspire engineering professionals and our students to step up and solve these problems, also galvanise the broader public's imagination about how engineering can help address these challenges. And again, we've come up with these challenges to focus our engineering efforts over the next 10 years. And each of these challenges are explained further in the context of Canada. Together, we've identified what roadblocks and challenges, and also a vision for the potential benefit of Canada and all Canadians. And we feel that we've clearly articulated these priority areas that we need to focus on over the coming 10 years. So that's all said. So I've looked at the current crisis that the globe and all our countries are dealing with. We as an engineering profession, we've tried to articulate the grand challenges ahead of us. And I've given you an example of what a country such as Canada is doing to shape what we can do as a country. So that being said, it's clear what us as engineers need to step up to do. So how do we then prepare the next generation of engineers to be able to deal with such challenges? In other words, what us as engineering educators need to prepare the future generations in what competencies and attributes they need to obtain so that they are prepared for the future. And if you look at the slide here, I think the work that was done by the American Society for Engineering Education some time ago, actually over a decade ago now, is a very good starting point. You can see on this slide that they've managed to identify and validate specific knowledge, skills, and abilities and perspectives that are needed by engineers in order to effectively live, work, and perform in a global context. More than 10 years ago, they engaged with industry, government, and education to develop these 5 competencies and the resulting 20 attributes you can see on the right-hand side of the slide. Indeed, there's been a great deal of progress that's been made since by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, as we know as UNESCO, also the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, and also the International Engineering Alliance in reviewing benchmarks for graduate attributes. And changes have resulted in an inclusion on a focus to use information technologies, the ability to learn and adapt to new and emerging technologies, along with a more integrated approach to engineering solutions that takes account of people, planet, and prosperity. The embedding of cultures, behaviours, and values for a more diverse and inclusive profession, and also a broad ethical approach regarding the development of engineering solutions is important. So the message is clear that rather than just focusing on technical, professional, and personal attributes, we as educators have to grapple with interpersonal and cross-cultural attributes. So we've got a few challenges ahead of us. So to illustrate the kinds of attributes we as educators need to develop in our students, I took the report and created this word cloud from words that highlighted the perceived gap in current education systems around the globe. Notice on this word cloud, the gaps seem to have a strong human dimension, and that the attributes that we are failing in at the moment to grapple with in our engineering education is much more broader than what we are normally dealing with. And so it's imperative that we as educators need to consider a more rounded curriculum. So let's look at a typical engineering programme, okay? So this is civil engineering anywhere across the globe. And you can see year 1, we've got, you know, the basics, engineering science, and year 2, we're getting a bit more engineering science and going into more of the discipline. And by year 3, we're getting more into civil engineering, you know, structures and bridge engineering and advanced geotech. And what I'd like us to think in the room is ask yourself, where are these global engineering attributes I've just been talking about being taught? Now, typically, this is typical, they're usually bundled in a couple of courses. And, you know, we cover ethics and communication and team working and sustainable thinking and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So they're very siloed in our curriculum. This is typical. So as educators, we have a real challenge to trying to prepare technically competent engineers who are adept at their discipline, but also have to have this broader capability set to deal with these global concerns. So this is a bit of a complicated slide. I've taken it from a UNESCO report, but what it clearly articulates is that addressing these grand challenges and creating attributes that will enable our engineering graduates to deal with them do require more complexity in the curriculum. What you see here is a way of understanding how teaching and learning methods are combined with the increasing need to understand complexities as the type of problem increases in complexity, and you can see on the left, from something very obvious to, as you go down the table, to something very chaotic, I'd say our typical engineering curriculums are designed for the obvious and maybe more complicated problems. We're getting quite good at using active learning and flipped classrooms with problem-based learning. So we're very comfortable in engineering education at that, the top two tiers of this table. But to be at the forefront of equipping our graduates for the complexities ahead, we as education leaders need to integrate into our curriculums more problem and project-based learning models, providing students with the ability to gain competencies and attributes from projects ranging from addressing learning outcomes within a discipline to interdisciplinary projects for single teams, as well as interdisciplinary mega projects with several project teams working together, either in a company or a member in a broader community. So there are many things shifting in the way we teach, and I'm going to just give you a few instances of about how we are moving to address these more complex ways of teaching. So within my institution, this is an example. This is what we call the cross-campus capstone classroom. This is where we bring upper year and graduate students from across the university at York University, and they work on a capstone project together. So an example is in one project that can be done under this model, 8 students from disciplines such as electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, global politics, space engineering, and international studies work together on developing a solar home system that provided affordable heating and electrical power for homeowners, farmers, and workers in Chile. Each of the students doing this obtained credits that enabled them to complete their program, despite what program they were in, whether it was electrical engineering or global politics. So that's one example. Here's another example. This is not just within an institution, this is a national approach to how we can collaborate as engineers. So this is a national initiative in Canada called a Leadathon. It's a competition, it's held online and aimed at fostering a leadership mindset within the framework of the Canadian Engineering Grand Challenges that I introduced earlier. And this year's theme was weaving Indigenous ways of knowing into the Canadian Engineering Grand Challenges to raise awareness around Indigenous knowledge for our engineering students across Canada. So that is a national approach, multidisciplinary, but it's extracurricular. It's not part of the curricula. Here's another example of another national approach, which is again multidisciplinary, and it can be in the curricula or co-curricular or extracurricular. And this is what we're calling our Champions program. So regardless of where the student is, they can build an e-portfolio that demonstrates their competencies to become a champion in our Global Challenges program. And what's interesting to note here is that each institution is responsible for how they implement their own way of doing this challenge. And then finally, here's an international approach. It's interdisciplinary, and it can be in the curriculum or extracurricular. And some of you may have heard of the How to Change the World program. They offer this several times a year, and it's a 1-week, fully virtual, experiential education program that are open to students and early career professionals from across the world. However, this typically is extracurriculum, and the organisation, they are expanded into offering credit-bearing courses at partner institutions. However, whilst they're a not-for-profit, it does cost money, either for the student or the institution that participates. So I've given you a snippet now of what the grand challenges are ahead of us, what of the competencies and attributes we as engineering educators need to prepare our students to grapple with these challenges. I've given you examples of how we can do multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and even international collaborations. And in summary, we are challenged to meet these graduate attributes in a curriculum that is stuffed with content, typically technical in bias. So how are we going to have, we've got to find some room in the curriculum to do all this sort of thing. We've got opportunities, even though a lot of these challenges are done extracurricular, how can we as educators try and think of ways to bring them into the curricula? And we've also now got opportunities to make interdisciplinary and international opportunities. And we have to think about how we can leverage partnership strategies within our countries and within our institutions to help do all this sort of thing. So I hope I've given you all food for thought about our next conversation in the next hour. Thank you for your time. I'm hoping I've got you all thinking. So thank you, Marcello. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your lovely presentation. You spoke about the importance of developing skills in our students so that they can address the grand challenges. We have to provide them with more opportunities to engage in complex problems, engage with students from other disciplines. And in this conference here, we've been talking a lot about that. So it's very good to have an international insight, see that you in Canada are doing the same things, the challenges are similar. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your examples, and thanks for your patience. Okay, but we could hear you very well, was perfect. Thank you. Now, please, Dietmar, I have already introduced you to the audience, so the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Marcello. You may have noticed I changed my my login. It's so I think, at least on my screen, it looks like you can see me okay now. Can you hear me okay now too? I have to ask because to the audience, we had lots of technical challenges to make this work. So I'm glad that things are working better now. So let me start out by really thanking Dr. Goodyer for a great presentation. We had talked about, of course, between the three of us, what we were going to talk about. And Dr. Goodyer really gave a very great overview of the big picture that we're facing as engineers globally, the grand challenges, how we are then consequently as engineering educators, we're trying to prepare our students for this new world. And in particular, what's important is this example was really wonderful that Dr. Goodyer started from, of these wildfires that we have, that we had in Canada. I think by now they're behind us. I'm living in the northern part of the United States, and I can tell you we were affected by these wildfires to the point not only that we had interesting sunsets that looked very nice, we had also, it went to the point that you could really smell the smoke in the air, and we were maybe, I would say, 600, 700, 800 miles away from this, from these wildfires. So this is an example of how of the character of these grand challenges that are oftentimes international challenges that need to be solved internationally, and they call for collaborations of engineers internationally. Now, of course, big companies, international companies have always, or for a long time at least, had international collaborations because they found that was the most effective way to conduct their business. But with these grand challenges we're talking about now, it's really absolutely necessary to have engineers across countries work together. And so what I'm going to talk about is going to be a bit of a change from the presentation of Dr. Goodyer, because I'm going to delve very specifically into one proposal, one specific detail as to how we can really prepare our students for this kind of work. And before doing so, I want to give you a little bit more of my background. I couldn't hear what Marcello was saying about me. I assume it was nice things, but just to make sure to get this point across, you may notice from my accent, I'm not a native English speaker. I was born in Germany, meaning I was raised in a different social culture. I was raised in a different engineering culture. So I'm very well aware of the differences, and also in particular of the opportunities of bringing different cultural perspectives together and bring them to bear on engineering problems. And when I say cultural perspectives, now I'm talking about engineering cultures. So engineers in Germany tend to approach problems differently from engineers in Brazil or in the United States or in Russia or in China. And if you bring people from these different kinds of engineering cultures together, you can oftentimes find broader solutions. This is the general value of diversity in any kind of team. So in this case, specifically of diversity of engineering cultures. And so that's a strong motivation for me, was a motivation for me to join the Global Engineering Deans Council. It's a motivation for me to drive to bring already our students together to have these multinational experiences. So the question now is, how do we do this? How can we really have our students have those experiences working in multinational teams, working on global kinds of problems? One simple answer is just bring the teams physically together, but that's difficult for all sorts of reasons. Travel is time consuming, travel is expensive. There's one of the good things that a bad thing, namely the COVID epidemic, has told us and has taught us is how we can better work together virtually. And one specific instance that I've been thinking about would be great to train our students to work in multinational teams would be our senior capstone experience. In all countries, engineering programs have a culminating experience for engineering students where groups of students work together on a more significant project, bringing all of the material that they learned up to this point to bear on solving a problem. So the very simple idea is, well, make these teams multinational, have those teams work together across countries. So what I'm proposing here is to look at our senior design experiences as an ideal vector to effect international experiences for our students. So what we are talking about is we would now have hybrid virtual and in-person teams. So you would have a part of the team working in one country, another part of the team working in another country. And of course, it could be more than 2 countries involved there. One of the benefits of that is that this really mirrors the experience that engineers in industry oftentimes have. And that's myself, I'm working in the aerospace. I'm in the aerospace field. The university I'm working for now is Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which focuses strongly on aviation and aerospace and has campuses all over the world. I believe, Marcello, we have a small campus in Brazil as well. We could have those teams of students work together across nations. What are the benefits of that? Well, other than these teams working together, there's also the issue of different kinds of resources and facilities being available in different countries. So you could say in the United States, oftentimes, at least at some universities, not at all universities, but at some universities, there are very advanced lab facilities available. There's advanced production facilities available, carbon fiber production, CNC machines, advanced 3D printing machines that may not be available in some other countries that don't have the kind of resources that are available in a country like the United States. So then you could design teams to bring those different capabilities together in order to solve larger problems that any of these teams by themselves would be able to work on. That's facilities, it's materials, it's parts that may be available easily in one country and not so easy in another country. And students would then have the opportunity to experience different styles of leadership that are contingent on cultural differences. You could, and this is all up to faculty mentors. Of course, each of these groups in different countries would have faculty mentors. They would have a very important role in guiding those multinational teams to form a whole. Many of us have the experience of leading senior design teams. When you're just dealing with one of these teams, we know that it takes some effort to bring those teams together, to shape them, to make sure that they can self-organize. Now we have this on a multinational level. That's also a learning experience for our faculty, by the way, not just for our students. So we have these faculty mentors that will have the opportunity to share in this multicultural experience, which they can then translate into their classroom, not only in these senior design courses, but also outside for other courses that they may be teaching. Now, another component that we have there that I would like to promote is individually in our own countries. I'm sure in the United States, that's a big topic. We want to have industry participation in these senior design projects. We want industry to propose projects that our students can work on so that they're real world projects, so that they can actually have an impact. It's not just toy problems or things that, well, this is just an example of how you can apply engineering to a problem. They can actually work on real problems that ultimately then get implemented. So again, this industry sponsorship for these multinational senior capstones can then also be multicultural. So in the aerospace engineer, Embraer, the aircraft company, has facilities in Brazil and the United States. My university happens to work closely together with Embraer in both of those countries. So this way, our students will have this experience of working in a multinational industry context, But for industry, this should be attractive too, because they have the opportunity to recruit talent internationally. So this would help us get industry interested in these particular kinds of projects. So what I'm really doing here is I'm presenting a call to action for us as engineering educators, and engineering deans would probably be in the best position to spearhead and lead this, to get together and work on getting these multinational senior design teams together. You can, if any of you have ideas, feel free to contact me. Feel free to contact any of us in this panel, and let us know. And then we can get together. We'll find industry sponsors. I'm already in conversations. One of the companies that we're working very closely together at my own university is Boeing. They, of course, are a multinational company with facilities across the globe, and they're interested in this topic as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Well, there's a lot in common between Jane's presentation and your presentation. Jane suggested that we have students from different disciplines working together on complex problems, and you went beyond that. You suggest that we had students from different disciplines and from different cultures working on real complex problems. That's very interesting. Very interesting. A very good suggestion, and I think that we have already advanced very much in collaboration in research, but we have a lot to do regarding collaboration in teaching and having students solving problems together. So very good suggestion, very good contribution. Now, please, Jáime.
Yes.
Thanks again. And I have already introduced you to the audience.
Oh.
And once again, sorry for the time. It's too early.
No problem.
It's early in Brazil. It's even earlier in Mexico. Thanks a lot for joining us. Jáime.
Can you listen? Can you listen to me? Because there is a problem uploading my file. It says that it's too heavy. Okay. I will even erase something here to see, because there was a video. Let me see if that helps. Okay. One moment, please. Let me see if that is better. Rename properties. It is. Let me see if I can save it as a PDF and make it even shorter. Okay, because I don't know why it's so heavy. Okay, save. Okay, let me try again. Slides. My computer. Can you see it now? How do I do the sharing, Marcello? Can you see it now?
Jáime, oh yes, we've got it.
Okay, great. Takes a while. It takes a time to do it. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay, let me check on this here. Okay, let me say something here. I had to raise some of these of the files. Okay, but with regard to the challenges, okay, I would like to remember the ecosystem that we have already. Okay, we have students that are centennials. Okay, we have professors. This is very important, because we have professors that are Generation X. Some of the Generation X professors and millennials, and very, very, very few baby boomers. Okay, I'm trying to connect this about how these centennials are and how we are. Okay, so the other thing is that we have different learning management systems. Okay, we have all these possibilities for having that. We use Canvas, we use Moodle, but now in the ecosystem we have a new arrival this year, no? The ChatGPT. So this is the ecosystem that we are having, and we have many academic models all around the world, and most of them still face-to-face. That is the ecosystem in which we are living, okay, for the engineering education and for education in general, but we are there. And there is something that I want to address, okay, that there are effects, okay, you know, when you got sick from COVID, you get some effects on the people, on a person when gets sick, some of them remain, and that has happened, okay. This was, as mentioned here, it was an unplanned experiment, okay, working from home, studying from home, and now it seems that flexibility is no longer a temporary pandemic response, okay, but enduring future of the modern working world. So this is very important. How we are preparing the students to face with this post-COVID effect, okay? It is something that we have to address and consider. We have this acceleration, okay, fostering skills and mindsets. We were working in a book about catalysts of engineering education, okay? And we say that now we are also very worried about mindsets and well-being. So as part of education, we need to consider this situation, okay, going to that point. The other is that going from authentic problem solving to systemic blended approaches. It's no longer now just the discipline, okay, and not just in the discipline, the other disciplines, other areas of the engineering, but we need to get all the other areas that are not engineers. And this, we said that the world doesn't go around the engineers, okay? It's very engineering centric, the conversation, but we need to address that we need to get other disciplines to get involved. So systemic blended approaches are important. The other thing is about ethical responsibilities. And you know, the way the students nowadays and the young people, they want social justice. All over the world, there are people that are angry, okay, people that they are not happy with what is going on. That we can say about climate, we can say about response of the government to deal with the pandemic and many things, okay, democracy and things. So people are more on social justice, okay. We went from multidisciplinarity and global. As you mentioned, Jane and Dietmar mentioned this multidisciplinarity and globality. It is important to consider, and it will it will stay there, okay. And choice and work-based learning to flexible learning opportunities. So how can we deal with this flexibility, okay? In order to do that, we need to understand centennials, okay? They have short-term goals, okay? They are balanced and social security. They are autonomous people, very independent, hyper connected, contribution and mobility and bilingualism. So there are more and more people talking more than just one language. And that is important because, you know, having another language gives you these senses, the nuances that you have when we talk to another language, okay, gives you another perspective from the world, okay? Is one thing that I like a lot about what Mexico is trying to do in the last years, okay, in the last decades, is to preserve the original languages, okay? We are making, there are ethnic groups that are very, very small groups now, very small people still remaining, and we are in a race to get these languages preserved, because they preserve many things, not just the language of the people, but the culture and the way to see the world changes, okay? So this means that we have to engage with active learning, the centennials, passion for teaching and learning. Okay, we need to have people with passion for that. Okay, assessment practices, remote hands-on learning, and faculty-student connectivity. This part is important. Okay, we saw that during the pandemic that we needed to have this engagement and the connectivity to be real. Now, let me tell you, what we need to do as universities on these challenges that we have, okay, is to keep creating value, to move swiftly, to adapt and or adopt new ways to fulfill expectations and to create value for stakeholders. So it's not just for what the student, but for society as a whole, okay? And what are the things that are expected, okay? For society, we need to increase social mobility. We need to make sure that we are really making this world more fairer, to have a fair world. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. Okay, this is a topic that we need to address in our engineering education. We need to make sure that we do that. And as you have been mentioning, Dietmar and Jane, to address the UN SDGs across the curricula. For the organizations, they say, hey, I have the student ready for the work. Okay, job ready, resilient, and very, very important, IT literate. Okay, and another thing, emotional intelligence. We need to require that for the new students. Okay, for the new graduates. For the students, they want to have meaningful learning. They say, what is this about? Why do I need it? They want flexibility, and they want to nucleatize learning, just little pieces of learning at a time. Okay, they cannot have too many at once. And the parents, what did the parents say? Okay, what is the return of the investment? A lot of universities say, it's too expensive. Why do I have to send my son to that university? The other is my parents say, I would like to have job readiness, my daughter, my son to be job ready. And the other thing that is important, no matter what other things happens, all the parents say, I want for my children to be happy. That's the most important thing. Okay, and the professors, they want to design meaningful learning experiences, to do research, and especially for professors, they say, I'm not here because I don't have an opportunity to do another job. I'm here because I would like this way of transcending. Okay, but this is important. Okay, so these are the expectations, okay, that we need to address when we are teaching engineers, okay, or making this education. And what professors did during the lockdown and keep doing, okay, because of the lockdown, we sometimes don't realize about the load the professor has, okay. They say the professor has to train on basic tools, okay. And sometimes the students are very good at managing them. So we need to make the professor, okay, to learn another language, okay, like this, how to deal with all these new tools, okay? And we said that it's like learning another language, okay? We said that even though we try a lot, okay, we show an accent as professors, okay? We is noticeable that we don't dominate those things, okay? As well as they do. And the other thing is negotiate. The other thing that we are doing because of this program that we have, negotiate with company partners and co-design challenges. At least in our university, in a moment, if we have the time, we will. I'm talking to you about how do we deal with this. Okay, so this was not the thing that the professors used to do. Okay, negotiate with companies, so they have to get new skills about negotiation. Use virtual reality simulators, okay? Design home hands-on experience. Sometimes go into the kitchen and do this. Go into the garage and do this. The professors have to be very creative to do that. And one of the things that we have as during the COVID, okay, that we start talking to our partners all over the world, and we have the global classroom, okay, activities. It's like, in this case, we got at least one university from other places in the world, okay? And we, in something that we call the global classroom, we make the students work together, okay? So you want to know more, there are here some of this book, okay, that in which we were working during the pandemic. So you can take more information from there about what other universities did, okay? There are about 15 universities there listed, and it shows the experience that we have during the pandemic. And some of them, as I told you, remain, okay? Will still keep going. When this is important about the data literacy skills, okay? Here is at the bottom where I got this information, okay? But this is something that we need to have, okay? Knowing what data is appropriate to use for a particular purpose. All the students have to know that, okay? Interpreting data visualizations, thinking critically about that, and this is important, okay? To create things so the students knows to be critical, understanding, recognizing, and communicating. Okay, so we have to have data storytelling. We need to have the students. Okay, you have all this data. You know how to interpret it, to understand it, and recognize it. But how do you convey that information as engineer? Okay, into for the other people. Okay, to the other people. But at the end, the future of work. The student is going to work somewhere. Okay. And there will be workplace 4.0 is globalized. There are a lot of shifting demographics, so we need to take care of the people that are getting older, okay? Higher longevity and calamities, okay? And calamities from every type, okay? But there is one calamity that is important, that is climate change, and the other part of the future of work is artificial intelligence. A lot of people say, hey, a lot of works will be lost. Yes. And then, therefore, we need to do some training of the engineers. Okay. But this is what the engineers expect to have in the world. Okay. For when they get out of the school. So we need to change to have a new paradigm from education, from loaded to lifelong learning. We need to instill in the students that they will have to keep learning all the time until they retire and even after that. So this is important, okay? And in this way, we are approaching this by starting the micro-credentialization of some of the semesters that we have at Tec de Monterrey. We are working at this moment in that topic, okay? Then we have to tell them that there will be there are multiple pathways they can go. And there is something here, okay? Integrate work and study and have liaison model academia industry programs, okay? So how do we have this work, okay? Priority and emerging skills, we need to teach them, okay, how to get this, how to prioritize what skills are needed and to empower the individuals. So this is new paradigms for the education. And and when I talk about the liaison model, okay, as a whole, as a university, we need to have something that the companies need to understand the way they can approach us as a university, okay? So we say, I can give you student recruitment services, okay? I can have supervised projects with students. And now I will tell you what's the blocks. We can develop the talent of individuals and companies. We can do that, okay? We can be involved in strategic company projects, and we keep going in this way, okay? The students and the professors can work all around here, okay? We can have development and technology transfer, specialized centers and hubs and so on, okay? All the way up to innovation and applied research. And this is not just for graduate students, okay? Now the undergrad are now and more getting into the innovation, okay, and research, applied research. So it is interesting to see how now there are undergraduate students publishing as much as a graduate student, okay? All depends on what stage they start during the program, okay? So this is very interesting. So a program, a liaison model, it is very important to have it so people understand how we relate to the companies and organizations and what type of services we can give to them, okay? So the stakeholders interaction tools, okay, so we have this liaison model, okay, to facilitate the interaction of students. So we need to have an office. We have an office, okay, where we create these connections. But at the end, the design of the experience is co-designed by the professor together with someone in the company, okay? And the other thing is the micro-credentialing, okay? A competence-based academic model for undergraduate students and lifelong learners. That is something that we are doing. So how do we translate these paradigms to transversal competencies? We need to make the students self-aware. We need to work on them, on being responsible on their learning, okay? To have this entrepreneurial spirit, to have social intelligence, to be aware of the needs of the society, the ethical citizen commitment, reasoning for complexity. The world is not linear, okay? We need to understand that. Communication, collaboration, and digital transformation. Those are the things that we need to go about transversal competencies. It doesn't matter what type of engineer you are, all these things have to be there. Now, how do we do it? How do we translate that? Okay, so we have a challenge-based learning, we have flexibility, we have an inspiring faculty and memorable college experience, plus globalization. So this happens that way, okay? How do we go for globalization? As I told you, global classroom, but also we are hiring more professors from other countries, okay? We need to have a faculty that is more global faculty, okay? So coming from other countries as well as bringing students from other countries to our university is very, very important. To have students from Brazil, I think it will enrich a lot the way we do it, okay? We already have students from Canada and USA, okay, and Germany, but we don't have that many from Brazil, let me tell you, okay? So I hope that we can do something, okay? And Marcello, you can invite our guests, okay, to the World in Education Forum. It will be an excellent opportunity to connect with other things, okay? So let me keep going, okay? This is the way we used to have. I was talking about the things that are needed, okay? But how do we put it in place, okay? We have all the semesters was a row of courses, okay, that way. And on 2019, we started with a new educational model, Tech 21 model, okay? In which what we did with this model, we stopped having all this list of courses one semester after the other, and we start modifying this, okay? We start with the students having the first 2 semesters, the exploration, then we go into focus and then specialization. So we have a plan that in such a way that the student can go and have these steps, okay, so they can decide where to go. But let me tell you here, this is the academic model, okay? As you can see here, we have still general education subject, so courses, okay? And we have perhaps math and physics here. But then we have what we call the blocks, okay? We have introductory block, exploration blocks, okay? So these blocks are challenges, okay, that we pose to the students. The first 3 semesters, the challenges are given by professors from the different centers, research centers at Tec de Monterrey, okay, to the students, but they have to use knowledge to do that, okay? Then we have, as you can see here, half of the time they are working on the challenges. When we go into the 4th, 5th semester and 6th semester, the time that they devote to the challenges, to these blocks, okay, we call learning blocks, increases up to 60%. What happened within these blocks, okay? We have learning modules, so the student has to use knowledge to solve a given problem, okay? And then these learning modules are used to solve the challenge that was co-designed by the professor and someone from an organization. And we said, it's not the purpose of this to have a consulting, okay, for the company. It's for the students to gain competences. Along that, the company might learn something, okay, also, and the students will be detected early for the talent that they have, okay, by the companies. So we have these possibilities. This is the way the challenge, the blocks are formed, okay, with learning modules and one challenge inside. But look at this, okay, on the 6th semester, they have in integrative challenge. So we need to get things from all over, okay, and get this. On the 7th semester, we have what we call tech semester. The student can go to international experience, to go to a internship to a company, and so they can choose where to go, okay? And finally, on this 8th semester, we have a multidisciplinary challenge where the students has to work with other disciplines to solve a problem, okay? And the integrative challenge, okay? That is like a capstone where the students have to really show what they know. And, you know, they work in teams, okay? But then we have a methodology to also assess what they know and what they are capable of doing, okay? So that is the program, okay? So there are examples I can send to you, and there are some information that we can share with other universities, okay, about how we did this type of learning, of this type of model, academic model. This then, when a student goes, okay, it will look now, instead of a set of this, it will look like this, my program, okay, this chemical engineering, okay, so it will show this way. And then I can say specialization in nanotechnology. I can make that. But let me tell you something very important, okay? Because of the COVID post effects, okay, we still have our 150 plus global classroom activities with the students, okay? So one of the courses is taken with another university. Plus, there is something very important that in Mexico is compulsory, okay? The student has to work 480 hours of social service. They have to go with the community and work and use their knowledge in order to solve problems, okay? And they do it as teams. The companies and the organizations have to give the information, and we have a fair, okay? We call it social service fair, where the organizations present the problems they are dealing with, and the students get enrolled in that type of work, okay? So those are the things that make the student, okay, more active, okay, because we have all the time since the first semester, the students involved in challenges. That means that also the load for the students, sometimes they feel that it's too much because they have to learn and then at the same time work on a problem, a real problem, okay, and they have to present that before the company or the organization. But let me tell you something, okay? We also need to remember that we have, perhaps in our university, in my university, we have about 25,000 engineering students in all the campuses that we have, 26 campuses. But we have about 10 times more engineers to deal with in Mexico, okay, to upskill and reskill those engineers. They already graduated, okay, but we need to keep working, and we need to have a continued education model, okay? And we have an andragogical institutional model that we call it Inspira, okay? We say Inspira, here inspires, okay? That means that we have to inspire the people, to nourish with the information, to have introduction, okay, to have a meaning for that, to practice, to integrate, to challenge the person, and then to tutor, okay? That is, Inspire is the Inspira is the acronym for what we do in the educational model for the students that are getting now into the job market, okay, into work now. This is important because we are doing now the micro credentials for the 7th semester for the students. If they want to take some of the courses, okay, the continuing education courses, they can do it, and some of them even it can be useful for the master programs, okay? So this is the type of program that we have, and the continuing educating engineers, okay, we have to be very flexible on doing so. So that is what I want to address. Very, very important, okay, that our job doesn't end with just the 4 years or 4.5 years or 5 years of teaching them, but it keeps going, okay? So we need to be aware to make aware the students of that, and also to be prepared, because as adults, they are not the same as where they were students, okay? They, when they were in college, now they are more strict on what they want, okay? So we have online flexibility, virtual classroom, plus alternative credentials certification, and we have something that we call live interactive virtual education, okay? So this is very interesting, okay, and very important, and it will be a very nice source of revenue and very meaningful, okay? We go ahead and poll the companies to say, hey, you know something, we give you this type of training to the people. Would like to know what was the impact. Do that something change in the company? And we also talk to the students, okay? What happened after you were trained by upskill and reskill of this, okay? And we got information, okay, I got a promotion, I get better salary, I feel more confident on the job, and so on. So it's not just educating, but also knowing what is happening with our education, our intervention in the lives of people, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaime. Very comprehensive presentation. I have followed your work at Tecnológico Monterrey. I don't know if you know this university. I think it's a very innovative curriculum. They are doing an amazing job. They combine something that's very difficult to combine: quality and scale. They are huge and they are good. So this curriculum you're doing is very innovative. So I think that everybody should visit and learn more about Tec Monterrey. Thank you, Jaime.
Yeah,
now,
thank you.
Luís.
Marcello, can you hear me?
Okay, good morning all. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, so thank you, Marcello, and of course a special thank to CEFET-Rio de Janeiro, to Maurício, Gisele, Rony Boloi pelo convite. É obviamente prazer estar de novo aqui e obviamente bom dia a todos os presentes. So back to English, so that our colleagues also may understand. My thought it's called Futures of Higher Education, future in plural, not future, because of course there are many different futures possible for higher education. And our three colleagues already talk about very important issues. So I think Professor Jane and also Professor Dietmar talk about curriculum modernization and how to include the United Nations SDGs into the curricula, including in the engineering curricula. And now Professor Jáime talk about the higher education after COVID, but also in very important topics like upskilling and reskilling, and how we can also introduce in the engineering curricula and in our cooperation with the world of work. My talk is a little bit on a different topic, and is about how the institutions can cooperate each other, and how challenge of training and learning in engineering can be seen as not a unique strategy, an institutional strategy, but how we can make it plural and multi-institutional and multinational. So this is the topic of my talk. Again, this is not the future, is some of the features of we can address in higher education and also in the engineering field. I will start with the image, so don't feel it too much provocative. It's just an image to address and to introduce the topic. So please, next slide. We have a monolith, and by definition, a monolith is a large block of stone standing by itself that was put it up by people in the ancient times. So it's a solid thing. It's a good thing, okay, of course, but we can use also the same image to introduce the topic. So please, the next slide. And we can consider that a monolith also is a unique, well-defined study plan designed using strict national and institutional rules. So the initial message is this. We all understand engineering. We are teachers of engineering. We all in our institutions have our own rules, the best guidelines. And the same in our country. Of course, we have guidelines to design our curricula. So the product is for sure good and very good. But if we don't take in consideration the possibility of cooperation inside the country, because the rules sometimes are not the same in institutions of the same country, and particularly outside the country. So we have a monolith. And the problem is, next slide, we have, of course, many monoliths in the world. And the problem is that somehow we have a problem of cooperation with those monoliths. So don't take me too much provocative. I'm not saying that the monolith is not well designed. Yes, it's very well designed, but there is problems on when our big objective is to start doing things together. And depending on the depth of those challenges, of course, we will find some problems on the way we design our curricula, and mainly the way that we allow our students to follow different paths. Next slide, please. So the monoliths produce very well graduates, master, PhD programs, no problem at all. But next slide, we want to produce, let's say, a more colored graduate, and of course, more cooperative graduate. Next slide, please. So the main message of my talk is we, of course, need to go from a monolithic view to a flexible view of the training and learning process of the students. It applies to all higher education, of course, including engineering. So we can say that we have the same endpoint. The same endpoint here is a graduate, a degree in engineering, but we may have different paths. Of course, we have this inside our curricula sometimes, and this is good. For example, we have electives, and the student can have the opportunity to select those electives, and in that way, we have some different paths between the student. But I'm talking about in a more deep way, okay? In a way that the student can have a training outside our institution, and the challenge is how we can accept that and introduce that in our curricula and promote that with our students. Next slide, please. So, of course, we have had in the recent past in Europe, for myself, a very nice approach and a very nice program. So it starts with the Bologna process together with the Erasmus program. And of course, the Bologna process addressed these issues. So what wants European Union is to produce a European higher education area where all the countries inside are recognized, all the institutions, all the programs. Of course, I don't have time to talk about all the technical issues, but there are accreditation process. The accreditation agencies depend on the European accreditation agency, and so on. The most important to say is that the real and the main objective of this is to produce transparency and at the same time to produce opportunities for international cooperation between institutions. So with that, we have the Erasmus program. Of course, the Erasmus program is very nice. So it introduced mobility. And in that way, we are introducing different paths for our students, for our training and learning process. So in Erasmus nowadays and for years, we send a student for a semester of 1 year to do some disciplines in other European partner. And the Erasmus rule is our student cannot leave our institution without a learning contract where we define the disciplines that the student will do. And before he starts or she starts, where we decide upon the convalidation process, where it will be replaced in our curricula. So the mobility is not an extra activity, it's an activity that is replace the things that the student will do. So we need, of course, of recognition, and there are guidelines for those recognition, and this recognition, of course, needs for flexibility. When I'm talking about that the problem of monoliths is not the content itself, all are good, but the relationship between them. So, fortunately, our program in engineering is not the same here in CEFET and so on in all partners. The same inside Brazil. The institutions do not have the same engineering program with the same study plan. No problem with that. I'm not saying that we need to uniformize all this. No, keep it different, but keep also an opportunity to recognize the difference on the partners and to allow to share the students. So this is the third main word about all this process, that of course we can't think about this for only 2 or 3 best students of our institution. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an opportunity of a massive cooperation where, of course, there are also some constraints to overcome, but theoretically where we build a space where the students can decide where to go in their training process. Of course, it will depend on the partnerships that the institution have and can offer that student. So if we think in a big dimension, and please think now in a big dimension, we are talking about not only an experience for the student to go to another institution, but we can start talking about sharing resources. So this means that if many students from CEFET goes to Portugal and from Portugal to CEFET, this means that our teachers are also teachers of CEFET. And the teachers from CEFET can also be our teachers. Of course, so it's not only the students that we share also resources. And of course, this introduces opportunity for myself can be, of course, very enlightened and underlined in the future. And for myself, it constitutes a big opportunity for the futures of higher education and, of course, for engineering training. Next slide, please. So, to achieve that, we need to guarantee recognition. Of course, we don't have time to talk about, again, with all these topics about the Bologna process, that in fact, they are not only from Bologna. Professor Jane just talked about it in her talk. So we need that will be focused now more in competencies and learning outcomes instead of contents. And we are also to focus more in workload or credits or whatever instead of contact hours. These are not, of course, these are guidelines from Bologna process, but it's not only from Bologna process. Jane talked about it, and she is from Canada, okay? So this means that if the study plans are different, and we don't want to make it equal, we need to compare it, and we need for a flexibility, and we need for a recognition that things are not necessarily the same in content, but they are the same on the general competencies, because both we are producing civil engineering or whatever. And of course, another issue that Jane also talked about it, that nowadays the most important may be not the contact hours, because we are trying to make a process that is more and more student-centered. And in that way, we should also to promote that where the student learns is not only at the classroom, but there are other places where the student can learn. So we don't speak anymore in contact hours. We start to talk about credits or workload or whatever you want. So this is not the system, please the next slide, not the system and the European that we are talking about, but in fact, it's a way to internationalize higher education, our programs, and to share resources. Next slide, please. So, in resume, I started with Erasmus mobility, but if we want to cooperate, this is not only about the Bologna process, this is not about Erasmus mobility, this is about international mobility. International mobility is used here from one country to another country in the world that we have a partner that we want to cooperate. There is a special program that in our institution we are deal with that are double diplomas. So the student takes part of the training in one institution and in another institution, and at the end it receives both diplomas. So it's an example, a good example of sharing resources, but in the future there will be more and more examples on that. But just to, please, the next slide, just to refer that is, of course, it's a hot topic in Europe. Nowadays, Bragança Polytechnic University belongs to a European university that is, let's say, the top level of actions of the Erasmus program. We are 9 partners in Europe, and the objective is just like that, how we can act like a unique university, not a joint university, not a merged university. So we have each institution have the presidents, vice presidents, and so on, okay? So we are not merging that. We are in different countries, but somehow we act like a common university, a unity university, because we have a common campus, a physical campus, a virtual campus, and at the end, we can share our students and we can share our teachers and researchers, and of course, this is a big opportunity for all institutions. And the same for the space, the big space that speaks Portuguese, okay? This is I think we all agree that is a unique opportunity, at least for Portugal. We have the main part of our international students, they speak Portuguese. They are from Brazil, they are from Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, São Tomé, Guiné-Bissau, and so on. And the Portuguese language is one of the few very nice examples. So it's not only English, okay? We have, in fact, a very, very nice opportunity because we have a common language. Numbers are not anymore correct, particularly in Brazil, but we have a common language that are spoken by almost 300 million people. And of course, this is an advantage for us. Next slide, please. So, in a brief way, for myself, the main message I already said about the sharing and the cooperation, but these are very, in a short way, explaining that we have double diplomas running. The double diploma, of course, again, doesn't need for the same study plan. So this is not a joint program. This is a double diploma project. We, of course, need to have the same profile of graduates. So we don't do a double diploma between civil and chemical engineering. No, between chemical and chemical engineering. But of course, the programs are different, but we have capacity to recognize and to share the teachers and the resources for the training of the students. Of course, again, if we do just once with one student, this means this impact. But if we have a strategy to open up us and to have more and more students on this, in fact, we should start thinking that we share resources, okay? Just a note to say that the last example is the model for the double diploma between Portugal and Brazil that have different higher education systems. And these not, and even with that, we succeed to design double diplomas together. So Brazil still have, at least in engineering areas, 5 years long programs. In Europe, we don't have it anymore, but let's say, we massify our master programs. And in some way, there are differences, but they can be designed, those differences, into double diploma projects. Our graduation plus master, they have the overall competencies that at least we found in the last years of the graduations in Brazil, because it was like that in the past, also in Portugal. Next slide. Okay, so the main rule, again, is the workload of the student. So for the same profile, we can succeed designing double diploma projects. And the main rule is that the total time of training of the students are the same. Okay, so we are comparing the same number of years and semesters and credits to design the double diploma. We do it, next slide please, also in many other parts of the world. We have a strong project in Erasmus, that international credit mobility. So we are doing it with, of course, inside Europe, but, well, inside European Union, but mainly outside European Union, with the Western Balkans countries, Eastern Europe, South Mediterranean, so north of Africa, well, Russia too, unfortunately not anymore during these times, Central Asia, and so on. So this is possible with many countries, with many different partners, if we want and if we succeed to evaluate that. And of course, it's our institution that chooses the partners, okay? So it's up to us to choose the partners that we want to cooperate. Next slide. So this is the results, just to see, for you to understand the possible dimension, and it could be bigger. We started that programs in 2014. So until now, we cooperate in double diploma programs with 27 different non-European countries. So we are talking about only outside European Union, 74 different partners, 24 different programs in my institution, bachelor and master programs, 1,375 students share. The majority of these students are at the master level, so more than 1,200 is at the master level. And also the projects have also staff mobility, of course, depending on the financial capacities and opportunities of the partners. And we already have the mobility of more than 450 teachers and staff. But the most important here is to understand what is in red, because it's not the objective itself, but impact from the project. From that one, of course, we produce 1,200 joint master theses. Okay, so this cooperation is good. And from that, we already, at least, these the numbers that we succeed to pick it up, at least 480 research joint publications at index journals, more than 420 communications in conferences, and nowadays they work in IPB as researchers, more than 100, or PhD students, more than 110 students that were former double diploma students in project. So this is one example of the impact of the post-double diploma project. Next slide, please. So just to end with, and we applying to the field of engineering, applying to Brazil. Nowadays, three good examples of cooperation is with CEFET-RJ, with CEFET Minas, with UTFPR. It's here Professor Luís Maurício Rezenda from Tecnológico Federal University of Paraná, and not anymore, but he was pro-rector at UTFPR, and he also helped to build all these projects. Federal of Mato Grosso do Sul and Federal of Lavras, we have projects together with this. With Brazil, only with Brazil, we have 16 bachelor and master programs at IPB running as double diploma projects with these partners. Of course, we share students. We, of course, do master dissertation together, because in double diploma, every student that is in IPB has a master dissertation co-supervised by a teacher from IPB and a teacher from the partner institution. And we start, of course, to have joint publications, conferences, research projects. And depending on the opportunities, we started already to share resources, okay? Share lectures. Of course, we can use video, okay? Professor Jáime already talked about it. I think it's a big opportunity, but there are advantages and disadvantages, and we know that a real cooperation, at least particularly in research level, we need for face-to-face knowledge between researchers. So we are doing that. Of course, we use the COIL concept, but we are also receiving students from the partners and teachers from the partners. At those teachers, we have projects that the teachers teach in our masters that are double diploma projects, and also I refer the post double diploma impact with opportunities for Brazilian students to stay in Portugal as a researchers and PhD students with grants. Just to finish, just a quick note to show you that we are not so different, particularly in engineering area, because engineering area is, let's say, a traditional and well-established area where a chemical engineering or a civil engineering program, fortunately, they have difference between institutions and between countries, but in fact, there are not too big differences. So these are the rules that we apply in concrete for those double diplomas. This is the example of with CEFET-RJ, because we are in CEFET-RJ. So, for example, we have a double diploma in your 5 years long bachelor in mechanical engineering. The first 8 semesters are done here. The 9th and 10th semester, the student goes to IPB, and it goes to our master in mechanical engineering. And our plan and at IPB includes the master dissertation, of course, and just more 3 elective master course units. So this means that we have the capacity to recognize the former training here in CEFET. So we will attribute a diploma to the students because we accept that the training, it was not only be done in IPB, it was done in CEFET, and we believe in what CEFET are teaching to their students, okay? So the student at the end, of course, they receive the bachelor diploma from CEFET and the master diploma from IPB. We have also, even knowing that there are different lengths of study plans, we have also double diplomas from joining masters directly, master to master. So one other example that we are already signed with CEFET is a double diploma with the master in computer science, first 3 semesters here, including the qualification exam. The thesis starts here, but already with a work plan, with co-supervised work plan with both teachers. So when the student gets the qualification exam, means that he's ready to go to Bragança for the last semester with Bragança, and we can call it, well, we are not introducing nothing new. So it's a sandwich, okay? So, but we recognize all the training programs that at the end, the student gets both diploma from CEFET and diploma from IPB, and particularly on this level, on master level, we are investing a lot of trying to have conditions to also to receive the teachers in a way that the teacher also teach in IPB for some time for particularly the disciplines that are together in the double diploma project. So this is my talk, my message. Okay, again, the most important is not double diploma, of course. The most important is the opportunity to share in a big dimension. So one thing is where we produce a project for 2 or 3 students or 2 or 3 teachers. Okay, this is very nice. It works very well in some areas, particularly on research. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a more ambitious process that the institutions itself to start thinking that maybe we have a way that our strength is not only our institution, but is our institution together with our partners that we choose, okay? And there are ways to putting people in contact, and at the same time, the results, it's not only the resources, it's also the results are also shared. And just to end with, this is our reality as institution. Nowadays, we have more than 10,000 students, and 4,000 students are non-Portuguese students. Of course, not only from the double diploma project, but from many other projects that we are together. But what we are looking for and succeeding is to be a real international institution. And nowadays, we live more and more in a global world, and this is a very opportunity for all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Luís. Wonderful presentation. Well, every panelist gave valuable insights about engineering education, and many things in common. But one thing was especially in common: the need to prepare our students to address complex problems. And if we need our students to address complex problems, we need to develop social sensitivity, like Jane said, and mobility is one of the ways you do that. You put students in touch with other students, with other careers, with other cultures, so that they can see the problems from different perspectives. So that was very valuable. So I thank you again, Jane, Jáime, Dietmar, and Luís. Thanks for your patience in the beginning. We had some technical problems in the beginning. And I thank all the audience that is online. Sorry for the delay we had in the beginning. And like Jane said, one of the important skills we need to have is we have to adapt. Yes, and we could adapt here. So the ability to adapt to new situations. So we had some problems here, we could adapt. So, and thank you for the IT guys, os rapazes aqui da tecnologia, que se viraram aqui para fazer o melhor para colocar esse evento online. Okay? Thank you very much. Goodbye.
See you next everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Marcello. Marcello.